What's up, Taiwan? I'm Sandy Chi with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan is returning to this year's Pacific Islands Forum, or PIF, after geopolitical pressure kept it from last year's gathering. Ahead of the annual meeting, our reporter Tiffany Wong sits down with this year's host, Palauan President Serangga Whips Jr., for an exclusive interview about Taiwan's participation.
Taiwan's Foreign Minister Lin Jialong is leading Taiwan's delegation to PIF this year after Taiwan was excluded from last year's forum. What led to the decision to invite Taiwan at this level, and what does its participation mean for Palau?
Well, I think first of all, what we need to understand is that all countries were, all partners were not allowed to attend the forum last year. But we made it very clear that as host of the 55th forum, that we wanted to follow the guidelines of the forum, which invites all partners. And Taiwan is a development partner of the forum. I tried inviting the highest level of every partner to come to Palau. In fact, I tried inviting presidents, prime ministers of those countries, like Japan, like others, to come to Palau because we want the highest level representation. Important that our partners understand how we can work together to build a resilient and prosperous Pacific. We're grateful that Minister is able to come and join us in Palau.
As the host of this year's forum, how have you managed pressure from China over Taiwan's participation and more broadly China's efforts to influence the bloc and its decision making?
China continues to say that we need to follow the one China principle. And I think that is something that continues to be something that they want to say. But we have to respect that we are all sovereign nations that make up the forum. We have our relationship with our partners. There's dialogue partners, there's development partners. They are all partners, and they are all allowed to participate at different levels, in different ways. And we respect those rules, and we should uphold those rules. One thing that you should be understood is that Taiwan not only is a development partner, they also fund the forum. They provide funding for the operations of the forum. Taiwan was one of the first that pledged to contribute to the Pacific Resilience Facility, which is for all of the Pacific. And Taiwan has been an active participant of the forum since 1992. So we are just following what has always been practiced.
I want to talk more about PIF. This is for the Pacific Islands to have a space to discuss the issues that matter the most to them. But sometimes the involvement of these external partners can also bring in some wider geopolitical conflicts. So what does it mean to you that the Pacific is increasingly a focal point for these competing interests?
I think that's really important. We are here to hear from our partners of how we can work together and cooperate to build a prosperous and resilient Pacific. That's why the partners should be here. Their politics and their global issues are their issues. And so we shouldn't let those detract from our desire to address the challenges that we face as a Pacific. And I think one of the things that we've seen over the years is that the forum has develop into a priority for all leaders. We've seen the highest attendance rates in these forum meetings. So I think we've learned to manage, and I think that's one of the things that was clear last year. And I support Solomon Islands' decision at the end to say nobody comes, because we don't want the noise to affect our decision-making process, what our priorities are. And I think one of the challenges this year is to make sure that the noise focuses. If there is noise, it's about Pacific issues, Pacific priorities, and how we work together to develop a prosperous and resilient Pacific.
The Pacific Islands Forum's annual meeting offers Taiwan an opportunity to engage with Pacific nations as China works to expand its presence in the region. Tiffany Wong is back to explain how the forum has become a focal point of competition for influence in the Pacific.
Taiwan is returning to the annual Pacific Islands Forum, hosted this year by allied country Palau. It marks the restoration of the delicate status quo at the regional conference, which from Saturday will bring together representatives from 18 island member states, along with regional partners, including the U.S., Japan, and China. These countries have dialogue partner status, allowing them to take part in official sessions and policy discussions. Meanwhile, Taiwan has participated as a development partner since 1993, a more limited role that allows it to support the bloc and hold events on the sidelines. For Taiwan, that provides a platform to engage Pacific countries as China expands its presence in the region. Taiwan has diplomatic ties with just 3 Pacific Island countries, Palau, the Marshall Islands, and Tuvalu.
除了能见度之外台湾应该借这个机会要来进行长边的这种多边外交。那当然，另外一个我觉得很重要的就是积极的要，譬如说跟这次出席的这些对话伙伴，特别是像是美国日本澳洲纽西兰这些，简单的来讲，就是对台湾相较友好的这些国家。
But Taiwan's presence has long been a source of tension with China and reflects the complex geopolitics surrounding the forum. China considers Taiwan part of its territory and opposes the country's participation in international organizations. For Pacific Island countries, the challenge is balancing their own interests with competing relationships with Taiwan, China, and other regional powers. Last year, the Solomon Islands, which cut off diplomatic ties with Taiwan in 2019 in favor of China, blocked all non-member states from the forum. It reportedly followed Beijing's attempt to exclude Taiwan, but the ban also shut out China.
Everyone who attended said wasn't that great. There was no, geopolitical distraction. There was no sort of China-Taiwan theatre, which has dominated a lot of the forums in the past and is viewed as kind of an annoyance, if anything, by a lot of PIF members.
When Taiwan and China last attended the forum together in Tonga in 2024, tensions were more visible. China objected to language in the final communique, reaffirming the bloc's relations with Taiwan. That section was later removed. And earlier this month, Pacific foreign ministers failed to agree on whether to condemn China's July missile launch. 2 members abstained, sparking renewed criticism that outside powers are influencing the forum's decisions.
What's really clearly the case here is that although when we call ourselves the Pacific exactly that, there are some countries that are using the need for consensus to actually respond to outside partners' wishes rather than those that belong to the Pacific Islands Forum.
But with this year's forum hosted by Palau, one of Taiwan's diplomatic allies, some experts say Taipei may have more room to maintain its presence and engage with other allies and participants at the event.
So Taiwan continue to do what Taiwan can present, what Taiwan can bring to the Pacific Island nations about the development project that we can demonstrate to them, about the drone that we produce, how that could be enabler for their national development, as well as other international cooperations that will be beneficial for our Pacific Island nations.
With both Taiwan and China back in the picture this year, the Pacific Islands Forum will once again test how the region balances its own priorities with growing competition for influence in the area. Klein Wong and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
As Japanese lawmakers meet Chinese officials in Beijing, one lawmaker says Japan is standing firm on Taiwan.
However, I made it very clear that our position towards Taiwan has not changed. Of course, there are the statements Prime Minister Takaichi has made, but at least as far as Taiwan is concerned, our view that things such as a peaceful resolution through dialogue are important has not changed.
It's the first visit to China by Japanese lawmakers since relations deteriorated last November over Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi Sanae's remarks about a possible Taiwan contingency. Takaichi said Chinese military action against Taiwan could pose a threat to Japan's survival and justify Japanese military intervention. Chinese officials say relations will not improve unless Japan changes its stance on Taiwan and retracts her comments. South Korea is hoping to restore a railway line that once connected to the north, a symbolic move reflecting the ultimate goal of reunification. But even with the cancellation of U.S.-South Korea joint military exercises, Pyongyang does not seem receptive to olive branches just yet. Jonathan Kaplan has the story.
It's the end of the line. At South Korea's northernmost rail depot, Woljongri, the station building stands empty. What remains of a North Korean train bombed by UN forces in 1950 points to the events that cut off this line from Seoul to Wonsan on the North Korean coast. But could that be about to change? In August, South Korea's Unification Ministry revived plans to restore the tracks on this section of railway as President Lee Jae-myung looks to send a message of peace. Some in the local community share his hopes.
Restoring the line is what everyone in Taiwan is hoping for.
I think if Woljongri Station is restored, it would lead to very smooth relations between South and North Korea.
President Lee says he is ready for talks with Pyongyang without preconditions. But Seoul's overtures come at an awkward time for the South Korean government. U.S. President Donald Trump in August scaled back annual joint military drills. And Pyongyang responded by designating Seoul its most hostile enemy and launching more than 11 ballistic missiles. Under those conditions, a symbolic gesture is among Seoul's few remaining options. But its chances of success are in doubt.
It seems like they keep trying to reconcile with North Korea, but from our point of view, it isn't really practical.
Woljongri's station building was rebuilt on this spot in 1988 as the original stop was located in what is now the demilitarized zone. It was an area that saw one of the heaviest battles at the start of the Korean War. A previous project to restore this railway line in 2015 was abandoned the following year as North Korea's fourth and fifth nuclear tests and missile launches pushed tensions to a new high. Some locals have come to see a repeating pattern in the push-pull of domestic politics and the on and off warming and souring of relations with the North.
When the ruling government changes, it will get turned upside down again.
For now, Woljongri Station remains a tourist attraction, with Lee's government promoting what it calls peaceful coexistence, pushing to get diplomacy back on track. Alex Chen, Shirbashi, and Jonathan Kaplan for TaiwanPlus.
The presidential office is pledging to continue drone programs after the opposition-led legislator voted on funding limits.
很可惜的是，今天在国会当中通过的版本没有充分考虑国防的需求。当国际都在踩油门，大家都在加速前进，台湾不应该卡在起点，那反而拉了手刹车，就没有拖慢的角度。
Opposition lawmakers on Thursday blocked a $6.6 billion cabinet proposal to provide 6 years of funding upfront to accelerate drone procurement. Instead, the Kuomintang and Taiwan People's Party passed their own bill. It provides an additional $1 billion in funding, but requires annual approval. The ruling party says the restrictions could slow development and make it harder to keep pace with rapidly evolving technology. President Lai Ching-te on Thursday announced a new program to promote healthy lifestyles called HealthCoin. The program will be rolled out in October. It encourages good habits like regular checkups and cancer screenings. HealthCoin is based on digital technology for health management and rewards users with credits they can apply to medical services and healthy food purchases. It also rewards active lifestyles. Those with wearable trackers can win perks like discounts at sports venues and fitness classes. The government is increasing subsidies for IVF treatment to ease financial burden on couples hoping to conceive. The funding will provide an extra $1,600 towards second and third rounds of IVF. This means the total subsidy per cycle will increase from just over $3,100 to $4,700 for those under 40, and from $2,500 to just over $4,000 for those aged 40 to 44. Taiwan has one of the lowest birth rates in the world. Applications for the new subsidy will open on September 1st. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, take a look at hundreds of people pulling an entire castle by hand in Japan. They're taking Hirosaki Castle back to its original position after it was renovated. I'm Sandy Chi. Take care and see you next time.